Yeah. Hi guys, good morning. Online students, am I audible? Could you please confirm in the chat box? Yeah, perfect. So guys, in the last session, we understood how to develop our WebMVC application by using Spring Boot and Data JPA. So when you are developing a web application using WebMVC, if you want to develop web application using WebMVC, we need to add a web starter. For the presentation purpose, we are adding time leaf starter. Then we created one entity class and repository interface to map with the database table. Then we created one service interface and we implemented that. And we created one controller to handle the request and response. So whenever we send the request to our controller, it is communicating with the service, it is getting the data from the database table, and it is sending the data to the UI. In the UI, we are having HTML page. That HTML page is using time leaf in order to display the data. Okay, slash books available. Now currently no records available, so we are getting a message as no records found. We should be able to add the record from here, then the record should be stored into database table. So in order to add the record into database table, here we need to go for form binding. So if you want to develop any form based applications, we need to implement a concept called form binding. What is the meaning of form binding? So in the form, I am going to take two fields. One is the name, second one is price. ID we will generate in the database by using identity generator. I just need to take the data for the non-primary key columns, name and price. Then I will have a button called save button. So when user click on this save button, that record should be inserted into database table and one success message should be displayed here. Right now, here in order to take the data from the form, we should have one form binding class. So here we are already having a class with a name called book. Inside the book class, we have the variables. Integer book ID is available, string book name is available, then double book price. Already our entity class is available. We are going to map this class to the form fields. That is called form binding. Book name variable will be mapped to name field. Book price variable will be mapped to price field. So earlier guys, we have done entity class creation. That means Java class is mapped to database table. Now Java class is mapped to database table. Along with that, we will map our Java class to form also. So what is the advantage? When you submit the form, we will capture the form data in the form of object. So this is book class available, and here book table is available. Book class available, book table is available. This Java class is mapped to database table as well as form also. So to capture the data from the form, Java class is mapped to form fields. To map Java class to the form fields, we are using some time leaf annotation. Time leaf properties are available. So this is for form binding. This is for form binding. This is for entity mapping. One class we are using for two operations. Book class, whenever the form is submitted, form data, name field, value, whatever the data you enter in the name variable, name field, that should be stored to name variable. Whatever the data you enter in the price field, it should be stored into price variable. So we are establishing mapping between Java class and a HTML form. So the process of establishing relation between Java class and form fields is called form binding. Why we need to go for this form binding? If you go for the form binding, you no need to capture form data using request.get parameter. We have seen in the servlets, when the form is submitted, we need to capture the data from the form by using request.get parameter. But in the Spring Web MVC, you no need to write that logic because MVC providing form binding concept. You need to tell to the Spring MVC which form data should be stored into which object. That's it. Spring will take care of capturing the form data, storing into object. So one Java class will be mapped to the form fields, at the same time mapped to database table. Why Java class is mapped to database table? Why Java class is mapped to database table? Why Java class is mapped to database table? To represent the data in the form of object. So we are getting the data in the form of object. I don't want to write insert query. I want to use ORM methods, save method, find by ID, find all. So everything will represent in the form of objects. Now see here, Java class mapped to form, at the same time it is mapped to table. For form binding, we are mapping Java class to form fields. For entity relationship mapping, we are mapping Java class to database table. Now, let me give the diagram clearly. Here, I'm having one book class, guys. Inside the book class, integer book ID available, string book name available, double book price available. So this is our Java class. Okay, right. Now, this Java class we are using for two purposes. One is table mapping, another one is form binding. So this is my Java class. Here we are already having a table in the database. A table in the database, the table is book underscore ID, which is a integer type. Book underscore name, which is a varchar type. And book underscore price, which is a double type or float type is available. So this is database table and this is the Java class. This is the DB table. This is the Java class. Here form is available, name field is available and price field is available. Why I am not taking ID in the form? Why I am not taking ID in the form? ID is a primary key. We are going to use generator for the ID. Now we will have save button here. For this button, whenever you click on the button, that form data should be captured. So this is the mapping that we are going to do. Java class is mapped to table and Java class is mapped to form. Why Java class is mapped to form? Why we need to map the Java class to the form like this? For the form binding. When the form is submitted, data should come in the form of object. Why our form is mapped to database table? To perform operations in the form of objects, right? Like this, mapping is available. So when we are writing the Java class, we should be very careful now. Our variable names should be mapped to column names in the table and our variable names should be mapped to fields in the form. So then only form binding can be done and entity mapping can be done. Now when user click on save button, when user click on save button, what will happen? This form data will be stored into this object. Now once you have this object, it is already mapped to table. Can I call it as an entity object? Yes, this entity object will be stored into database table by using save method. Are you guys able to understand? What is form binding? What is a form binding? The process of mapping form fields to Java class variables is called form binding. What is entity mapping? The process of mapping Java class to database table is called entity mapping. So you need, if you want to develop the Spring Boot web applications or REST APIs, this form binding concept, entity mapping concept is very important. So without having this knowledge, developing the web application in the Spring Boot using WebMVC is difficult, right? So Java class, book class is available. Book class variables mapped to form. So this is called form binding technique. What is the benefit of form binding, guys? What is the benefit of form binding? form data will be stored into object. Object data will be, now if I have the data in the object, I can display in the form. If I have data in the form, I can store into object. Then here entity mapping is available. What is the purpose of entity mapping? What is the purpose of entity mapping? Entity mapping is used to map our Java class data to database table so that we can perform ORM operations. Are you clear with this? Now let's go to our application. In our application, we need to write the method to insert the record into database table. Okay, first let us write one method in the controller to display the form. We need, whenever you click on add book button, one page should come to display the form, right? So let us write one method, public model and view display form, or else let me call it as index also. This is the page where I need to display the form. Now let's write model and view. MAV is equal to new model and view. Let us set the view name MAV dot set view name. I'm giving the view name as something like index. What is the meaning of that? Index.html page should be displayed. Return model and view. Let us map this method to a get request method at the rate get mapping. You can give it as a slash index. So that means whenever we access index URL pattern with the get request, index page should be loaded. Now let me create index page in the project, templates, new file, or else let me copy this HTML, rename it. I'm giving the name as index.html. Go to this one. So let us remove all this content, whatever we have. Okay. So just a div class container is available. Here we need to display book form. Book form we need to display index URL pattern. So whenever you click on add new book button, I want to call the URL pattern as index. So whenever you click on the earlier here, I don't know the URL pattern for the button. Now for the button I am giving the URL pattern as a index. What is the meaning of that? Whenever you click this button, request should go to index URL pattern. What is going to happen in the index URL pattern? Here it is going to return index page. So let us see index page is loading or not. If index page is loading, then we will develop the form there and we will map the form to form binding object. Refresh, run as boot app. Let us access our application. Go to browser, refresh. Right, project is loaded. Now add a new book. When I am going to click on this button, can you see the below URL pattern? It is trying to go for index. Click on add new book. Yes, index page is loaded. Currently page is empty. We need to write the form logic here. We need to display the form. Is it a normal form or form binding is also required? We need to develop a normal form or we need to do the form binding. That means when the form is loading, we need to tell to the Spring, hey, this form data should be binded to one Java class object. So that's why at the time of loading the form only, we need to send the binding object. Add object key comma value. So key is book, value is new book object. I'm sending one empty object. So sending empty object for form binding. Right. When the form is load, this concept is little tricky, guys. Understand? When I'm clicking on index button, my form is loading. At the time of form is loading, we need to tell to the form this form data should be mapped to book object. So from the controller, we are sending that form object to the UI by using model and view object. From the controller, we are sending that data to the UI. What data I am sending from the controller to the UI? One empty object I am sending. Why I am sending a empty object? I need to display the form with the empty fields. But when you submit the form, data should come to this object. I am giving one empty object. You fill the data in that object and you give it the back to the controller. That is the meaning of that. Able to understand? So why I am sending one object to the UI at the time of a page loading? Why I am sending book object to the UI when the page is loading? To map the form fields to the object. This form belongs to which object? We need to map it. To map it, we are sending one empty object for the form. Now go to index.html. Here, let us display the form. Let us write the form logic. So let's take the form tag. When you go for the form tag, it will have the action, form will have the action, and form will have the method. So I want to send the data in the post request. Now let us write table. Inside the table, one table row. Inside that table data, I will ask book name. To display the field, we are going to use again TD. Input type is equal to text. Input type is equal to text. Input type is equal to text, something like this. Okay. Yeah. Now, similarly, let us write one more field, book price. Input type is equal to number. Then one more field, button. Input type is equal to submit. Here, for the button, I need to give the value save. So this is our form. It is a basic HTML form. Is there any binding available? Currently there is no binding, just one HTML form is available. I need to tell that this form data belongs to my Java object. So there should be some relation between form fields and Java class variables, form binding. In order to establish that form binding, I'm sending when this method is responsible to load the empty form. When the form is loading, to load the form, I'm setting one empty object to the model and I am returning my view name. So that means in this view, we can access this object and that object I will use to map for the form. That is called form binding. In order to do that, first form action is equal to, we are going to specify the URL pattern. When this form is submitted, what you want to do? When this form is submitted, I want to call one controller method to send the data to the database table. For that, I'm writing one method URL with a name called save. So we need to write one more method in the controller. That method is responsible to save the form data in the database table. Currently in the controller, how many methods available? What is this method? Index method. What is the purpose of index method? To display empty form. What is the purpose of this method? To retrieve existing books. Now, who should insert the record into database table? Is there any method available for that? Method is not available. So whenever we submit the form, this URL should be called. We need to develop one more method to insert the record into table. Then next one, th colon object. Th colon object is equal to dollar of book. Th colon object is equal to dollar of book. What is the meaning of th colon object? This form data should be mapped to book object. Form data should be mapped to book object. What is the book object? That is the key I'm sending. So whenever you specify th colon object is equal to dollar of book, it will access the value of this key. What is the value of that key? new book object. So it will take the empty book object to do the mapping. So in the mapping, which variable should be mapped to which field in the class, which field should be mapped to which variable. For that, we are going to use th colon field is equal to th colon field is equal to star of book name, our variable name. So similarly here, th colon field is equal to star of book price. This is form binding. So earlier we developed just HTML forms. When you develop just HTML form, you are responsible to capture the data from the form by using request.get parameter. But from now onwards, I don't want to write the logic to capture the form data. Spring MVC should capture form data whenever we submit the form. So here, if Spring MVC want to capture our form data, we need to map our Java class details to HTML form. So that whenever you click on this submit button, book name variable, book name field data will be stored to book name variable available in the book object. Book price field data will be stored into book price variable available in the book object. That is called form binding. Getting my point? So why I am sending this? If I don't send this object, what is the problem? To which object this form data should be mapped? When the form is loading, object should be available, right? So that is the reason we are going to send empty object for the binding. And in the form, we are specifying action attribute. What is the purpose of action attribute? What is the purpose of action attribute? Whenever you submit, what should happen? That is called action. What is the th colon object? What is the meaning of th colon object? This form is belongs to which object? Book. I'm sending book right key. Using that key, we are accessing that value. Then what is the method? What type of request you want to send to the server? Now here, what is the meaning of th colon field? Relation between the field and variable. This field data should be mapped to this variable available in the book object. Similarly, price variable, it should be mapped to the book price variable available in the book object. So empty form will be loaded with the form binding. When you submit the form data will be stored into object will go to controller. Now inside the controller, we need to write a method to save the book data. So already we have given URL pattern for the action /save, or you can give /book also. What is the URL pattern I'm giving? /book. What type of request it is? Post request. Go to controller. Now here index method is already available, which is used to load the form. Let us write one more method. Public. What is the return type? Model and view, which is save book. Let me take book object as a parameter. It is binded to post request @post mapping. What is the URL pattern? Book is the URL pattern. Return. Currently, I'm returning the same. Sorry, I want to return model and view object. Model and view, MAV is equal to new model and view. Return model and view object. Okay. So here I want to set to view name same page. After inserting the book, I am returning the same index page. First let's observe, are we able to capture that book object or not? First of all, when I submit the form, the book object is coming to my controller method or not? If the object is coming to the controller with the form data, our problem is solved. We can insert the record into database table. Look at this method once. What is the meaning of a post mapping? What is the meaning of post mapping? our method is mapped to post request. Our method is mapped to post request. Who will call this controller method? UI page will call directly, or dispatcher servlet will call this method? Dispatcher servlet. My method is expecting one object as a parameter, book object. Who will pass book object to our method? Client, dispatcher. Who is calling that method? Confusion. I'm writing a method in the controller. Who will call our controller method? Who will call our controller methods? Spring MVC architecture, remember. We will send the request. Who will receive the request? What dispatcher servlet will do? Handler mapper to identify the method. Then who will call that method? Controller methods always will be called by dispatcher servlet only, not the UI page. From the UI, you will send the request. It will go to dispatcher. Dispatcher will ask a handler mapper, boss, which method I should call. Handler mapper will identify the method, will give to controller. Then controller method will be called by dispatcher. So who will pass the parameter to our method now? Dispatch. Who is calling the method? That person only should pass the parameter. Dispatcher servlet will pass the book object as a parameter with the form data. That means instead of we are writing the logic to capture form data, dispatcher servlet will capture the form data, will give to our method in the form of object. That is called pre-processing of the request. Dispatcher servlet is a front controller which is responsible to perform pre-processing and post-processing of a request. What is the meaning of pre-processing? To call the controller method, book object is required. In that book object, form data should be stored. So capture form data, store into book object, give the book object to controller method. Programmer will do that. Dispatcher servlet will do that. Dispatcher servlet will do that. So that is called pre-processing. Right. Good. So there are total 3 methods available in our application. Controller, mainly in the controller, 3 methods available. What are those 3 methods? First one is index method. What is the meaning of index method? To load the form with the binding technique. I'm just loading the form, or I'm mapping the form to the binding object. I'm loading the form and I am mapping the form to the binding object. Then I have one more method called save book method. What is the purpose of save book method? When the form is submitted, take the form data in the form of object. We have another method, get books method, to display the books in the UI. Currently, in the post request save book method, I'm not inserting in the database. First, we need to check data coming to the controller or not. Whenever you submit the UI page button, is that form data coming to the controller or not? If form data is coming to the controller, our task is easy. Just we need to insert that object into database table. Are you clear? Yes, let's start this. Anybody not able to understand? First, we have created one index method. In the index method, I am returning model and view object. In this model and view, I'm setting one empty book object and I'm setting the view name as a index. That means I want to load index page, index HTML. In the index HTML, I should be able to access the book object. Go to index HTML. In the index HTML, HTML form is available with some special effect. So what is that special effect? Form binding technique is available. This form is binded to book object and form fields are mapped to object variables, right? Whenever you submit the form, a post request will go to /book URL. /book URL method is post request method. It is expecting book object as a parameter. So in that book object, data will come. That data we need to insert into table. Yes, guys. So you understand what is the logic I have created. Just I created 2 methods. and one HTML page. HTML page contains two fields with the form binding. In the controller, one method is used to load the form, one method is used to save the form data. Anybody not able to understand? Any questions? You no need to read it. That is the reason we are taking object as a parameter. That reading part will be taken care by dispatcher servlet. That is the form binding technique. So here, if you see th field, th field, th object, the reason is I don't want to read the data, because if it is one form, I can read it by using request.get parameter. In my project, 100 forms available. 100 places you need to write request.get parameter, duplicate code. So to avoid that reading part only, we are using form binding. So dispatcher servlet will read the data instead of we are reading. To bind it to the form, na? Suppose if I don't send this object, when this form is loaded, how can you access that key here? You cannot access that key, na? No, whatever you are sending from here, this key you need to use. You need to, whenever form is loading, when the form is loading, this form belongs to which object? You need to tell that. In order to tell that, you need to send this empty object. If I don't send this empty object, my HTML page cannot understand what is this key, what is this key. Suppose if I don't write it, book name, book price, but these variables belongs to which class? HTML page knows that, or HTML page don't know that? We don't know. So that is the reason when the page is loading, I'm sending one object. So when I'm sending one object, in that page I can tell that these fields are belongs to book object. Book object is coming as empty. So form will come with empty fields. Without sending this empty object, mapping we cannot do. Object should be there in order to map. Na? My page is loading. At the time of loading the page, I need to tell this fields belongs to book object variables. So if you have the book object, then only I can map it. If I don't have the book object, I cannot map it. You got it? Yeah. Any other question? This is syntax to represent the URL pattern. Time-leaf syntax. So that means action represents when button is submitted, what should happen? That will be represented by action. When you are specifying the action, this is the syntax in the time leaf. That is what key here. I am passing object key comma type. Based on the data type, it will identify. Any other question? Form binding. What is the meaning of form binding? What is the meaning of form binding? Mapping form field variables to Java class variables. So when we want to map your Java class to form binding, at the time of loading this form, we need to tell this form belongs to which object. Okay. So that is the reason from the controller, index method is executing to display empty form. When I am displaying the empty form, I am sending the book object empty object. Why I am sending this empty object? To represent that this form is belongs to book object. Okay. Here field is represent th colon object form to class mapping, form to object mapping. Th colon field represents which field data should store into which variable in the object. That is the mapping. Look at this form. Online students able to understand? Can we do this form binding using HTML instead of time leaf? You cannot. HTML is a static, right? You can't do the form mappings and all. If you want to do the form mapping, then definitely you need to go for either Timeleaf or JSP. In the JSP also you can do that. Here, things which are extra in the form, th colon object, th colon, only two things are extra. What is the purpose of th colon object? Binding. Form to Java class binding. What is th colon field? Field mapping to it. If I remove these two things, it is like a normal HTML form only, right? If I remove this, it is like a normal HTML form. What is the new thing here? th colon object, th colon field. What is the purpose of th colon field? Field to Java class variable mapping. What is th colon object? Form to object mapping. That's it. Now, when this form is submitted, do I need to capture the form data? Dispatcher servlet will capture the form data. Dispatcher servlet will capture. What is this action represents? When the form is submitted, what should happen? So I am giving action is equal to /book. Method is equal to post. That means whenever you submit this form, it will identify post request method whose URL pattern is /book. Post request method whose URL pattern is /book. In the controller, I am having post request method with /book as a URL pattern. So whenever you submit the form, this method will be called. What is there in this method? Expecting book object as a parameter. Empty book object or with form data. Who will capture form data and store into book object? Dispatcher servlet. Who will call our method? Dispatcher servlet. So whenever you submit, dispatcher servlet will capture the form data, will store into book object, will give the book object as a parameter to our method. So what we need to do? Just you save that object into table by using save method. So you no need to write the logic to capture the data because we are enabling form binding technique. So dispatcher servlet will map our form data to binding object. So and it will give you the binding object as a parameter to your method. Once you got the object with the data, you just need to insert that object by calling save method. Can we run and see is form binding working or not? Yes. Am I printing toString method? We need to see, yeah, toString is available to see the content of the object. Clear the console. Application is ready. Go to this, add new book. So when I go for add new book, my form is loaded. Right. Now let us enter the details and submit. Okay. Currently it is not going to insert in the table, guys. We don't have that logic. Just I want to see data coming to the controller or not. When I submit the form, this form data going to controller or not. Click on save. Failed. Now the method is failed. No static resource /book. No static resource @/book is available. Type not found 404. Maybe URL pattern wrong. th colon action, correct. It's not just action, it should be th colon action. Run as boot app. Yeah, I have reloaded this page. Then give the data. Then click on save. My console is empty. Click on save. When I click on save, am I able to get the data to the controller? We are not entering ID, we are entering name and price. So am I writing request.get parameter to capture the data? No, the data is coming to the controller in the form of object. So who is getting the data from the form, storing into your object? dispatchers are late. Okay, look at this. So some people having still confusion. Index method. What is the purpose of index method? What is the purpose of index method? It is used to display the form. Why we are sending empty object to the UI in the index method? Why we are sending empty object to the UI in the index method? To do the form binding. To do the form binding. Okay. What is this save book method? To capture form data when the form is submitted. Index.html. Still anybody not able to understand form binding? What is the meaning of form binding? What is the meaning of form binding? Mapping form fields to Java class. Mapping the form fields to Java class is called form binding. So to do this, first thing, when you are loading the form, you need to send the object to which you need to map the data. That is the first rule. When the form is loading, you need to send the object to which you want to map the data. Then second rule, in the form, you need to write th:\object, th:\field. What is the meaning of th:\object? Which object? th:\field means which variable. Okay. Now we are able to get this form data in the controller. Now let's go to our service. Let me write one method in the service. Public boolean save book. So it is expecting book object as a parameter. My service layer method. Now let us go to service impl. Let us override that method which is responsible to save the book. Save book method is available. Now I want to save the record. Book repository dot save. Our entity object is available as a method parameter. Call this save book. It is saved book object. So if saved book dot book id, if saved book dot get book id, if it is not equal to null, if it is not equal to null, then return true value. So if the record is inserted successfully, primary key value will be generated. If the primary key value is not equal to null, I will return true. Otherwise, I will return false value. So a new method I have added in the service interface. This method is taking object as a parameter to insert, and it is going to return boolean value. Service impl. So if you see public boolean save book with book object as a parameter, I'm calling repository.save method, which is used to insert the record into table. If record is inserted, primary key value will be populated. If the primary key value is not equal to null, that means insertion successful, then I will return true. Otherwise, I will return false value. Able to understand? Good. This logic we can simplify also. What I am doing in this logic, if id not equal to null, I am returning true. Otherwise, I am returning false value. Instead of this, can I write logic like this also? Return saved book dot get book id not equal to null. It will also do the same operation, right? If id not equal to null, it will return true. If id is null, it will return false value. Either you can write like this or you can write like this. Anything is fine. So if you are getting confused with this, you go with this approach. I'm saving the book, it will return the book object. So primary key we are setting, our generator will set that. If the primary key is available, that means record is inserted. Otherwise, record is not inserted. Now go to controller. Inside this controller, instead of printing the record, what we need to do? Service dot save book, you pass that book. Okay. So if that service method is returning status, whether that book is saved or not. If status is true, then mav dot set add object, mav dot add object key comma value. So I'm going to specify success message saying that book saved. Okay, else I will set error message, add object of error message failed to save. If record is inserted successfully, I'm sending success message to the UI. If record is failed to insert, I'm sending error message to the UI. Right. Look this code. Earlier, this logic is not available. Earlier, we are just printing the object on the console to see data is coming to the controller or not. Data is coming to the controller. Now, what the controller will do? Controller will call service method. What service method will do? Will call repository method. What repository will do? Insert into table. If the record is inserted successfully, I will get to true as a return type. If it is true, set the success message. If it is not inserted, then set the error message. Now I need to display this success message and error message on the UI page. How to display them on the UI? So here you can see that P th colon text is equal to dollar of success message. Dollar of success message. Suppose if it is failed to insert, then we need to specify error. Either success message or error message will be displayed. Any one will be available. If it is inserted, success message will come. If it is not inserted, error message will come. Good. I want to recreate the table with the auto increment, guys. How do we recreate the table? By using create option. Go to our book class. Identity type is generator type is identity. Stop it. Refresh. Run as boot app. Table will be recreated now. It is deleting the existing table. It created a new table with the auto increment. What is the meaning of auto increment? What is the meaning of auto increment? Just table got recreated. We are good. So when the table is recreated, I change it to update. I don't want to recreate the table again. That's why I change it the property to update. Now go to this application books. Any records available? No. Click on add new book. Book name Java. Book price some thousand. Click on save. We are getting the message as book saved. Let us go to books here. Java record is coming or not? Yes, Java record is coming. Click on add book. Now let add it as Python. Price is 2000. Click on save. That book got saved. Go to this URL. Now see, the Python book is coming. We are able to insert the record and we are able to display the record. Let me make some changes here. Let us go to our index.html. Below the form, I want to display one hyperlink. Ahref is equal to books. View all books. So once the book is inserted, every time I no need to go to the URL. There should be one link to see all the books available. All the books. Button is available. Let me give class is equal to button. This is button primary. I want to display this button as a primary button. This is success message also. I want to display in the green color. How can we do that? Class is equal to how to display that? Okay. Style is equal to color forest green. That let's see, is it going to display in the green color or not? Let us clear this screen, run the application again. Yeah. Add new book, view all books. Already there are books available, add new book, save button, view all books available. If I click on this, 2 books are coming. Add the new book, AWS 3000. Click on save. Now we are getting in the green color, book saved. Click on view books, AWS record is also available. Click on add new book. Let's add DevOps, right? The price is something like 4000. Save it. Book saved. View books, DevOps record is available. So with this, we are able to complete 2 functionalities, adding the book and display the book. Now what next? When I click on edit, it should come to the editable mode. When I click on delete, that record should be deleted. Yes. So delete we can implement in 2 ways. One is called soft delete. Another one is called hard delete. Okay. What is the meaning of soft delete, guys? What is the meaning of soft delete? Record will not be deleted from the database. It will be available in the database. What about hard delete? Record will be deleted permanently from the database. Okay, good. Add new book, view books. Let's add sales, Angular. Book price. Click on save. View all books. Good. Any questions? Sorry? You need to do the form validation for that. What we do is here, we will just add required. If you write like this, without entering the data, it will not allow you to submit the form. We need to make the form fields are mandatory. So to make our form fields are mandatory, we are giving this as required. Client side validation. Run this application. Please fill out this field. It will not allow you. Fill out this field. Without entering the data, you can't submit the form. Anybody not able to understand this code we have done for today? Just we are taking the form data and we are inserting that form data into database table. Anybody who is not able to understand? Just we need to perform CRUD operations. Insert, update, retrieve, delete. Any questions? Anybody having any questions? That next, when we are going to talk about request parameters, path parameters, we will use that annotation. To implement edit functionality, we need to do that. Action. So whenever the methods are available in the controller, for the controller methods, URL patterns will be available. When you want to execute this method, you need to use this URL pattern. Now, if you go to our page, index page is available. In the index page, there is a hyperlink. So what is the meaning of this hyperlink? Whenever I click on that hyperlink, I want to display all the books which are available in the table. So whenever you click on this hyperlink, which method is responsible to display all the books? Our last method. Okay. This method is responsible to display all the books which are available in the table. When I click on this hyperlink, this method should be executed. So what we do is in the index.html, for this hyperlink, we are giving href is equal to books. That means when you click this hyperlink, request will go to this URL pattern. That URL pattern belongs to this method. That means when you click this hyperlink, it will go to this method. This method will retrieve all the books from the table, will send the data to another page called books view. There, all the book records will be displayed. Similarly, in the index.html, whenever you click on this submit button, post request should go to this URL pattern. This URL pattern belongs to a method in the controller, which is responsible to insert the book in the table. Okay, and in the books view.html, add a new book button is available. When I click this button, my page should be loaded. Which method is responsible to load the page? Index method is responsible to load the page. So for that reason, in the add a new book hyperlink, I'm giving index. Index is the URL pattern of the first method, which will load the empty form. So when which method should be executed, that method URL pattern you need to configure. So total in our controller, there are 3 methods available. As of now, 3 methods available in our controller. One method, whenever I click on this button, form should be loaded. For that, index method is available, index URL pattern. So this button is mapped to index URL. When I click on this button, index URL is loaded. With that, empty form is coming. And here I will enter the data. And I will click on the submit. When I click on save button, this is mapped to another URL pattern called /book with the post request. So when I click on save, it will go to that post request method with the /book. Here hyperlink available. When I click on the hyperlink, it will go to /books URL, which will get the data and which will display here. Now we need to write 2 more methods in our controller to handle edit request and delete request. We need to write 2 more methods. One is for edit request, another one is for delete request. Able to understand this? You should be able to complete this project coding within 30 minutes. But from 2 days, we are understanding the same. 30 minutes more than sufficient to complete this requirement. Just CRUD operations. Anybody tried practicing? Able to do? No. If you do, you will not have this blank face when I am explaining the form binding. You did not try. That is the reason you are getting confusion. So that is what I told you. For everything, don't dependent on the trainer. Trainer will be there with you for 3 months only. After that, you have to survive in the company on your own. Today I am here. I will explain you. I will clarify your doubt. After course completed, nobody will help you. If you go to the company, nobody will help you. So if you feel that I paid 10,000 for Ashok IT, sir will teach everything, then I will learn. I will teach today, but after 4 months, once you go to company, who will teach you? Nobody. You have to do things on your own. Nobody explained me what is form binding. I learnt on my own. So you need to do for you, it's advantage. We are teaching something. We are trying to explain the concept. We are injecting the subject into your brain. But whatever you are listening in the class, only that is not sufficient to survive in the company. You need to do a lot of practice on your own. So I gave the requirement yesterday. You should complete that. 24 hours of time. 30 minutes of time is sufficient to complete the task. But within 24 hours of time, you are not able to do it. Do you think that in the company they will give 1 week of time to develop this project? Half an hour more than sufficient. If I don't need to explain to you, within 15 minutes I will complete this project. 15 minutes also waste. 10 minutes is sufficient. Fatafat you can write the 5 methods and complete it. Because we are not writing anything in the DAO repository, nothing we are writing. JPA repository we are using. In the service layer, 3-4 methods we need to write. In the controller, 3-4 methods, 2 HTML pages. Already pages are ready to display the form, to display the records. 10 minutes is sufficient to complete this task. At that level, you need to learn the subject. It's not like what is form binding, variable mapping. You are not understanding this concept means you are not doing homework. Yesterday I told you we need to develop the save functionality, edit functionality, delete functionality by using time loop. You need to Google, you need to search in YouTube, you need to search in ChatGPT. Try to get the content from the internet. Try to implement, try to understand. If you are not able to understand, you can ask that question in the class. If you don't do the homework, when you come to the class, today, blast. Some people are not able to understand. Tomorrow I will go to next concept. When your doubt will be clarified? When your doubt will be clarified? Today I explained this program. It is working in my system. Today you need to try. It will not work in your system. Tomorrow I will go to edit functionality, delete functionality. You are not able to understand, save functionality only. So if you do this homework yesterday, if you are not able to understand the save functionality, you can ask that doubt in the today's session when I am explaining. So you need to be advanced than me in the practice. What I am going to explain tomorrow, you need to try before one day so that you will understand where is the problem, where is the difficulty, that you can focus when I am explaining. You can ask me that concept once again when I am writing the code in the class. You got my point? Yesterday, if you have tried that save functionality, you might know what is the problem with the form binding. Directly today you came to the class to listen form binding. I completed. It's working in my system, but you did not get the clarity due to lack of practice. In single shot, nothing will happen. So you need to do some homework before coming to the class. Then only you will concentrate on the topic when I am writing the code. So tomorrow we need to implement, edit and delete. Try to do it. Try to implement on your own. Same thing, n number of examples are there in the internet. CRUD operations by using Spring Boot. In the Google, in the ChatGPT, in the YouTube, n number of examples are available. So you just need to spend some time to learn the concept. Coding is not something that you can buttify and remember. So today, whatever the logic I have written, I will share this code also. I don't have any problem. But is there any use of taking this code when you are not capable to do it on your own? I can share it. I don't have any issue. My controller is available. I will give this. If I give the code right, you will just do the copy paste. If I am giving this code, you will just do the copy paste. You will not learn how to think and write it. So this code will not work for tomorrow because tomorrow requirement is different. Yeah. So whatever the code I have written, it is there. We are having a book entity class. Same class we are using for entity as well as form binding. And we are having a repository. We are not writing anything in the repository. We have a service, two methods available. One is used to get all the books. One is used to save the book. Service IMPL, we are overriding two methods. Controller, three methods. One method is used to load the form. One method is used to save the form data. One method is used to display all the records. This is a page which contains the logic to display the records in the table, and this is the page which contains the logic to display the form. So all the files I have created are part of these nodes. So but my sincere request, don't do the copy paste. If you do the copy paste, it will work. But the thing is, you need to improve the skill to write that logic on your own. You should be able to develop this logic on your own. That is the most important part. Good. Any questions, anyone? You need to implement that save functionality and try to implement edit and delete functionality. Tomorrow we will complete edit and delete functionality in the project. Learning the concept is different. Implementing the code is different. You understood what is WebMVC, but today you are not able to understand how to write that code. So you need to improve that coding skill. So please do that practice. Thank you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Online students, any questions, anyone?
Sir,
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
what is this JAX RS, sir?
Sir, JAX RS is one API which is used to develop the REST APIs by using Java, but it is outdated now in the market.
Oh, okay. So like we also can develop web applications using JAX RS?
Not web application, web services, REST APIs.
Oh, okay, okay.
Instead of JAX RS, nowadays people are using Spring REST to develop the web services.
Okay, okay.
Hi, Ashok. Funny.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, while doing that endpoints we are checking, right? So Postman is giving the all the HTTP method like get to do, post to put to delete, right? So same thing, same endpoint will checking in the browser get the retrieving the data. But if you are using the post, it getting some exception. Same
Yes, sir. You
endpoint will
cannot.
work on the Postman.
No, sir. From the browser, when you send the request by typing the URL, right, it will treat as a GET request. You can't send the POST request from the browser directly with the URL.
Yeah. Same endpoint will work on the Postman while
Yes,
testing.
in the Postman we can test it.
Yeah. That's what. Is there any option? That's what I'm
No,
asking.
no, you can't.
No,
do that.
right?
No.
Just if you are going for the post request, then go for the Postman, right?
Yeah, Postman or form.
Okay. Yeah. Form will give the response. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, hi Ashok.
Hello.
Yeah, this is Bal. So just to understand thing, so how Servlet dispatcher can identify which class is need to just make the object of the class
Sir,
by
already whenever we are submitting the form, we are giving the object type for the form, right?
okay.
Whenever you submit, dispatcher will understand what is this object. It is a
But
key.
which mechanism is just using the servlet dispatcher to identify that? Because in the HTTP request we are not passing any class name or something.
No, man. Here already your form object is having the book type, right? Book object is there. Now it will understand that this th colon object will tell you what is this object, what is the data type. This is a key. Basically, the model and view is a map now. Here we already having a key. By using the key, it will get the value. When it will get the value, it will understand that it is a book object.
Okay, but in the HTTP request, the object will be captured or the request parameter will be
Request
captured?
parameters will be captured. Whatever the form you are submitting, the form data will go to the dispatcher servlet in the request body, not the object. The request parameters will go to the dispatcher. Dispatcher will capture those parameters and will bind it to the book object. So our method is already expecting object as a parameter, right? Based on this data type, it will check what are the request parameters are coming and what are the variables available in the book. Those request parameter names, our variables will be same. Then it will map the data to this object.
Okay, but we are not passing any class name. So
No,
by
we don't need
using
to
the
pass. Yes, we don't need to pass. Based on the method parameter data type, it will identify.
okay, but it means if I understood correctly, so by using the method parameter, it can give the class name, and by using the request parameter, it can build the object.
Correct.
Hi, Ashok.
Yeah, hi.
Here, class level also I gave one mapping. Here, method level also we are giving mapping. How we can access that on the class level if we declare class level mapping also?
If you give the URL pattern at the class level also, here you need to specify that URL. Here I'm giving book na. Suppose at the class level, if you give as a bookstore or something like Ashok IT, you need to specify like this. That is a class level URL / method level URL.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ashok, this is Akshay.
Yes, sir.
In the industry, there are some projects who are using XML approach as well for this MVC architecture.
That is
Can
old.
you also, yeah, I know, but there are some projects. So can you just provide us the idea for that approach as well? And
Well, I will make one video on that, sir. I will upload in the channel if you want
one
to
more
learn the old
thing,
approach. Yeah.
using this JSP approach, the form
We'll do
binding
one.
also.
You will do one example using JSP also. Currently, we are going with time leaf. Now, one example I will show with the JSP.
Okay.
Ashok,
Hello, sir. Form binding is supported by Angular and React.
Yes, sir. They will also support.
Hi, Ashok. Actually, my question is around that use case that I'm following now. So my values are coming from the database, and so for the boolean, particularly for the boolean, so it is populating a true and false value. But however, when the values are getting populated, I'm able to set the value for text number. But when it comes to the boolean, uh, somehow when I'm setting that boolean field, it is not when let's say the user are checking that checkbox on the UI, and on the submitting on the that submitting the form, that's not getting reflected to the database, and from the when it gets fetched, so is any particular parameter that we need to set in the at form, or might be in the theme list, there is any configuration that we need to follow?
Generally, for checkbox whenever you edit that, it is not coming in the select mode that you are saying.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see one scenario for that. We'll do that.
Okay. Thanks.
Sir, can you go to the save method one? So here, right, we are creating a new model object and then we are just setting the success message. So my doubt is how the form is retaining the book and then the price data.
Sir, whatever
Because we
the
are rendering a new view, right?
no view, that means whenever you are going for the same page now, whatever the book object is available, it will be binded to the model, same model object. If you want to clear the view, right, then you need to set the empty object again. I will show you how to refresh the page when the form is saved.
Okay, so here in that case, that means the new key value pairs will be added, but the existing will still remain the same.
Yes, so we need to clear the form. I will show you how to clear that form.
Okay, and then one more question, sir. So here we are directly mapping with the entity, right? The form binding with entity, but is that a standard practice or will we create a separate object?
Separate will be there, sir. Entities and bindings will be separate, but if I start using now, people will confuse why are you using two classes for the same thing. So slowly we will add that part as well.
Hello, Ashok. Like
Yes,
in the save book method, here we are checking the status, right?
it is
For
true or
success and
false. Yeah,
yeah, how this message is displaying in the UI
I'm
by
sending
using this key.
I'm sending this data into UI by using model object, right?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
key I can access in the UI page to display the success message.
Okay, we can use the key, then the text will display automatically.
Yes, right. This is the key and value. If you access this key in the UI, then this value will be displayed in the UI.
Okay, thank you.
Sir,
Yeah.
when I'm updating the record, we are not passing the new object to the time leaf, right? In front end.
Yeah, whenever you are updating the record, you need to pass primary key also. Otherwise, every time it will insert a new record.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sir, for suppose we are not getting any empty object, we are not giving, sir. So for that one, what happens?
If you don't write this line of code,
Yeah.
25 line, na, your form will not be loaded. It will fail.
Okay.
Because your form requires some object for the mapping. If you don't send that object, na, it will fail. You have to send this object to do the mapping. Otherwise, it will not work.
Okay.
Okay. Good, guys. Thank you. I'm stopping for now. We'll meet in the tomorrow session. Please do the practice before coming to tomorrow's class.